Hello, this is the market update for 9th of June. You're looking at the daily chart of S&P 500. As you can see that S&P 500 was trading within this range for about a week or so and then broke to the downside today ahead of tomorrow's CPI release. So obviously this is a bearish pattern right now, but we'll see what happens tomorrow, whether there is a follow through or whether there is a positive reaction to the CPI. So we'll have to wait and see how it develops tomorrow. The near-term support is around 39.75, and below there the support is around 3900. If we look at the pivot levels, the weekly pivot levels for S&P 500, you'll see that it spent quite a bit of time inside the weekly pivot range right here, and then in the afternoon of today it started selling off and it closed right at S2. So this is S1 and this is S2 and this is S3. So it closed right at S2. Now at this point it's also quite a bit below the pivot level. The pivot level is the blue line, which is around 41.20. So we have to be prepared for a move towards the pivot level. It may not go all the way to the pivot level, but because it is substantially below, there would be a propensity to move towards the pivot level at some point. If it falls further from the CPI number, then we could even see a very sharp move towards the pivot level. Because the short-term indicators, technical indicators, RSI, MACD, they're all oversold. So at this point, at least, it closed right at support. The S1 is going to provide resistance if it were to rebound. So we should see some resistance at this level. But otherwise, it is at support. The S3 is right now around 39.58. So if I look at the daily chart, that's roughly where this horizontal line is. So that's the pivot range for S&P 500. Moving on to NASDAQ 100. So this is the daily chart of NASDAQ 100. Again, similar to S&P 500, it was trading in a range inside this box. This is the last week's range, this box. So we close to the downside. So again, this is looking bearish at the moment. Near-term support is around 12,185, which is the first line, followed by 11,750, which is the second line. If we look at the weekly pivot levels for NDX, NASDAQ 100, so again, it spent quite a bit of time inside the weekly pivot range. So that's these two purple lines, and it closed in between S1 and S2. S2, the support level is around 12,180. So if I look at the daily chart, which is roughly this horizontal line, so that should, so it should find some buying demand at this level. NASDAQ 2 right now is quite a bit below the pivot level. Pivot level is the blue line. So at some point, there may be a propensity to move towards the pivot level. It may not go all the way up to the pivot level, but there would be, the further away from the pivot level, there would be a propensity to move towards the pivot level. So something to keep in mind. The S3 is around 11,900. Not sure that it's going to go all the way to 11,900, but for the moment, near-term support is around 12,180. Looking at the VIX very quickly. As you can see, VIX is trading within this channel. This is an upward sloping channel, and today it bounced off this support area right here. It's still very very elevated. It's over 25 right now. It was trending lower, but it was very oversold and found support at this level and bounced. Resistance would be at this midpoint if it were to go up to that level. But if it breaks below this level again, then the support would be at the lower end of the channel. As you can see, it bounced off this level a number of times. So there is a possibility that if it were to fall, it could find support at the channel line. But if it were to close below this channel line, that would be very good for the market. But we're not there yet. So first, let's see whether or not this level is broken. Then we can talk about this, this level. But for the time being, it's in an upward channel. It found support at this level. Resistance would be at this midpoint. And then let's see what happens to VIX tomorrow when the CPI numbers come out, how it reacts to the CPI number. If we quickly look at the 10-year bond yield, so this is the chart of the 10-year bond yield. So since falling to a low of around 2.7%, it's been steadily rising, and it closed above. It closed at 3.05%. It's now comfortably above 3%, and it's heading towards the previous highs. The previous intraday high is around 3.2. Not sure that we'll get there, but if it does get up to there, stocks might be under pressure. On the other hand, if it were to close below this horizontal line, which is around 2.97, it would suggest weakening. This was the previous low, so below 2.97% might suggest some weakness creeping into the 10-year bond yield. Looking at the dollar index very quickly to see how the dollar is doing. Dollar made a very strong move today. So this is the daily chart of dollar. So since reaching a high of almost 105, it had pulled back to the daily 50-day moving average, which is this blue line right here. And since then, it's been gradually moving higher and had a very big day. There's a big bullish green candle. So the near-term resistance is around 104 and then around 105. Those are the two levels. But technically, it's looking quite strong. Looking at some individual stocks very quickly, we'll look at Amazon. So Amazon had a very strong run up. It rallied all the way up to 128.50, and then since then it's been pulling back. It closed right at support right here. So this was the previous resistance, and it broke through this level here, and then it rallied all the way up to 128.50. So it should find some support at this level. But if this level is closed under, the next key level is the previous low, which is around 104-ish level. But at the moment it is at support, so let's see whether this support is held. Looking at the next one, which is Apple. Apple is looking a little bit weak. It's been making lower highs. Today it closed below support around 145. There is some support around 142-ish, and then below there support is around 137. So it is looking a little bit weak here. So it could be vulnerable to a little bit more pullback. But that again depends on what happens to the broader market, NASDAQ 100. But at least for now, it has closed below the previous low, swing low right here, and these are the two support levels. That's all for today. Thank you very much for watching the video.